Good evening, Shubham. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too. I'm good too. So, Shubham, first of all, congratulations on your journey.
Thank you.
I'm sure our students will find it truly inspiring.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it was a good experience for me as well with Jamboree and then the tedious part of applying as well.
Right, right. So, I usually tell students that the GMAT, GRE, all these exams, that's just like the tip of the iceberg. Lot more work than goes into the whole application process. So, what do you have to say about that?
I think that's very true because GRE is just one component of it. Then you have your statement of purpose, your letter of recommendations, your transcripts. I mean, if you're still part of a college, then you can still score improve your GPA, and then how you talk to professors and how you find out the correct colleges. That itself is a big task. So yeah, as you said, GRE is a very small component, important, but probably not the most important.
Right, right. So let's take a step back. So, Shubham, where have you done your bachelor's degree from, and in
Uh,
which domain?
right. So I did my bachelor's degree from Nanyang Technological University in Singapore in computer science.
Right. And then what program are you go? I mean, have you applied for your master's degree?
I'm going for masters in computer science and specializing in machine learning.
All right, all right. So when did you decide to do your master's? In the US.
Right. So I graduated from NTU in 2016, and I always wanted to do my master's because I always felt that bachelor's wasn't just enough for me. But then I wasn't sure which field I want to go for. Should I go for an MBA? Should I go for a master's? But then around 3 years down the line, I talked to a few of my seniors who did their masters and they had good jobs in the US and not just the US, in Canada, UK, everywhere in the world, right? So that definitely helped, or rather forced, not inspired me to go for that. And plus, because now machine learning and artificial intelligence is the thing as of now, right? And that's gonna be there for the next 20 years to 30 years maybe. So it's I wanted to update myself, update my skill set, and stay relevant in computer science. So I decided to go for masters, and then took about a year to prepare for it.
So you finished your bachelor's in 2016. You said, right?
Yes,
So you have about 5 years of work experience now. Actually, you will have 5 years by the time you start your master's program, right?
correct. Yeah.
Usually, what we see is that people with such work experience, 4 or 5 years of work experience, they opt for the MBA, not the MS. In
Yeah.
your case, why did you opt for the MS and not the MBA?
So for me, it became clear as I started work that I wasn't really interested in MBA because MBA is more about, at least from my perspective, is about selling your ideas, which I felt that I wasn't best suited for that. I was rather interested in computer science, and I was always intrigued by these problem solving skills that you require in computer science. And with my job as well, where I was working as a software developer, it just seemed natural to go into that path. So I never gave MBA proper thought anyway because MS seemed the natural way always for me.
So since 2016, which organizations have you worked with and in what roles?
So I worked only with the JP Morgan. I joined as an analyst, then I was promoted to junior associate and then to senior associate. Worked almost in the same team, but changed teams about a year back. Still enjoying my work there and have been as a software developer throughout. And right now I'm a tech lead in the team. So overseeing all these design, architectural, as well as code reviews and stuff.
Right, right. So when you started preparing for your GRE, and I mean you are quite a senior level, so I'm sure you have got a lot of work. Your schedule is probably extremely packed. So how did you find time to prepare for the GRE? Did you take a break from work, or if not, then how did you juggle between your work as well as your GRE?
So I started preparing for GRE in 2020, early 2020. And as you said, it was very difficult with the work because I mean, always we have late night calls with US or UK, and then during the day you're in office, you have not much time. But I mean, unfortunately, COVID happened, but fortunately for me, that gave me some extra time because I was at home and then I didn't have to spend time while traveling to office, and then overall, I had more time on hand. So that's when I joined Jamboree in April, and then started with the classes, and then slowly spent time during weekends. And because I was in the team for such a long time, I knew my system in and out. So it wasn't that difficult. But obviously, if there was no COVID and I was going to office, it would have been very tough.
Right, right. And somebody like you, I mean, you are from NTU, you are a bright, student, and you have been doing well in a professional life. So you could have prepared for the GRE on your own as well. So why did you decide to take professional help?
The main thing for me was English. I was always good with mathematics, but then English was a weak subject for me. Especially the technique of problem solving. The worst was reading comprehensions. I mean, those were very challenging. Hence, when I discussed with some of my friends and seniors, they said that Jamboree is a good institute, and they have very like practical questions the way it appears in GRE, and they even recommended the instructors. So that's why I decided that it's better I go for that. And once you pay money, then you're even more dedicated towards a cause, right? I mean, otherwise you always dwindle and you think that, okay, I'll study tomorrow, and then that tomorrow never comes.
I think that's an interesting insight that once you have invested, once you have paid the money, then sometimes even if you do want to take a break or not study, you tell yourself that, oh, well, I don't want my money to go down the drain,
Yeah,
right? So
exactly.
that's an interesting insight. So how much time did you spend on your GRE prep? How many months or days?
So I had initially planned to spend about 3 months to prepare for GRE, but due to some personal reasons and COVID, I couldn't, and I ended up spending around 6 months. So I started in April and wrote the exam in September. So there was a bit of a gap in June and July where I didn't prep much. But then, thanks to the notes that I took during the classes and the books, I managed to cover up in August, and then did the solving of papers, mock papers in September. So in total, about 4 months. But yeah, if you see the whole time, in 6 months.
So when you started, your GRE preparation, so you mentioned that you were nervous about the verbal. I mean, you were nervous about the verbal portion, and that probably, filled you felt that you should take professional help. But when you started the classes, etc., so did you feel that it helped?
Definitely. I mean, the way we solve questions. So before joining Jamboree, I was preparing myself a bit, or rather reading the questions and the format of the questions, and I couldn't even understand some questions in RC. I was like, how do I even answer these? And are there any techniques and stuff? So I think what really helped is analyzing the question and how to search for the answer in reading passages, or even like sentence equivalents. Like, how do you approach the question? So it helped me reduce the time that I would have taken otherwise in terms of completing the question, as well as the verbal part of, or rather the vocabulary part of it helped, because you guys structured the vocabulary list into 50, I think 15 lists were there with the different words. So I think that really helped in getting that one list every week or something like that. So that helped me focus on a few things and learn a lot.
How many full-length mock tests did you take?
I did about, I think, 8, if I'm not wrong. 8
And
from Jamboree, and then 2 from ETS.
10 full-length tests, right?
Yeah.
So in math, did you find any difficulty, or you were far more comfortable with math than you were in English?
I think I was mostly comfortable with mathematics, but I guess without Jamboree, the timing would have been an issue because some questions take very long time if you solve using traditional methods that we had learned in class 11, 12, or even 9, 10th. But when we sat down with I think the instructor's name was Praddy at that time. And he really gave us good tricks on like solving the problem. Like if I went with traditional method, I would take in a minute, and with his tricks, I could solve in like 10 seconds. And those formulas, which are, I mean, you don't need to calculate things if you just remember the formula. And with maths, if you practice, then you can just like, you don't have to learn the formula, you just remember it when you practice.
So what score did you finally end up with?
So I got 167 in maths and 159 in verbal.
159 in verbal is quite good.
Yeah, I mean, I was expecting about 155, but then yeah, it was good.
So you can't complain, right? You got more than what you were expecting. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, I think Jamboree really helped me. Otherwise, I would have had to take at least 2 times.
26 you ended up with, right?
326, yes.
So while you were taking the full-length mock test, the Jamboree full-length mock test, so whatever scores you were getting, was that, comparable with whatever you ended up getting in the actual GRE exam?
Yeah, I was getting around, I think ±2, so it was more or less same.
So congratulations, 326 is definitely a good score.
Thank you.
So now when you so do you have any advice for people, who are now students who are planning to start their GRE preparation or who are midway through their GRE preparation? Any piece of advice?
I think it's good to start early rather than late. Like I felt I gave GRE a bit late. I could have, if I had done it in July, I would have been able to apply to more colleges for the first deadline, because some of them have deadlines in October, or rather the early deadlines. So that helps. And when you're studying, focus on a few things rather than focusing on everything. Like initially I was trying to do all type of questions every day, but then I realized that that's not possible. If I focus on certain type of questions on certain days, then I can have full focus there and learn on how to solve those questions better. And practice. I mean, there's no alternative to practicing, whether it's math or verbal. Practice as many questions as possible. And the lastly for verbal especially is the vocabulary. I mean, we have to learn words, whether you mug up or you remember using your daily, I mean, you write things or you read more, whatever works for individuals. But yeah, vocabulary you have to do.
So for your practice, and you mentioned that, practice makes a man perfect or a woman perfect, right? So practicing obviously will help you get rid of those silly mistakes, etc., and definitely helps with your speed, So
Yeah.
what material did you use for your, after your classes? What material did you use for, the practice portion?
So I had the ETS book, or the official ETS book, as well as the Jamboree book 1 and book 2. So every day after class, we would get homework to go through a certain number of questions for the next class. So I did all of those, and then whatever content was covered during the class, I did that from the ETS book as well, so that I get more questions to practice on. And I think book 2 was a bit tough initially for me, because the level of questions was a bit high. But then by the end of the classes, I started getting the hang of it and then managed to attempt those.
Right. So now let's come to your application process. How did you shortlist the universities? What parameters did you keep in mind?
So for me, there were a few important things that I wanted to see. One, or rather the least important of those, was the reputation of the college, because most of the times people go with rankings. And I've seen that for masters, the rankings don't matter that much. What matters is, so for me, the important factors were what has been the employment statistics of that college, or rather of that department. That was one. Then the class size, gender ratio, obviously the finances on how expensive the college is, and whether there are any opportunities for scholarships or not. Mostly they aren't for international students, but some of them had TAs for masters and some of them didn't. So obviously the ones that didn't have, I didn't apply there. So I think those were the important ones. And then because I wanted to focus on machine learning, so there are like a few professors who are very famous for machine learning, and they have very good classes. So I took some extra classes online, like a lot of the professors post their classes on YouTube. So I did a few of those and saw that how they teach and whether the homework style of how they give homeworks, how they give their quizzes, is that something that is compatible with me or not? Because I might go to the best college, but if I don't like the way that it functions or the way the course functions, then I won't be able to excel. And lastly, one important thing was that I wanted to try out research as well, because I haven't done much research before. So if I like research, I might go for a PhD. So I was looking for research opportunities. Hence, I talked to certain few professors at different colleges to get their views and see whether there's a possibility of me doing research or not.
So which universities did you apply to?
So I applied to CMU, Georgia Tech, Northeastern, NYU, Northwestern, and Stanford.
And where did you get the admit offers from?
I got into Georgia Tech, NYU, Northeastern, and Northwestern said that I applied too late. They liked my profile, but they can't accept because they have accepted other students already. So they said that if I apply next year, they would give me, but got rejected from CMU and Stanford.
So where are you finally going?
I decided to go for Georgia Tech.
Atlanta.
Sorry?
I said Atlanta would be definitely a great place to be in.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, I mean, why Georgia Tech of all the admits that you got?
So there are a few factors. Financial is definitely one. It's a bit cheaper than other colleges being in Atlanta as compared to if you see NYU. Then it's one of the professors there for machine learning are well known, and the professors that I talked to, they said that I can do research with them when I join, and I can get TA-ships as well there, and especially the specializations there. They have 11 specializations, so you can take different courses from different specializations if you want to. And machine learning specifically, I like the courses like deep learning, graph algorithms that were not available in a lot of other colleges. So I mean that was my number one choice. So I mean, even though if I had gotten at Stanford, CMU, or anywhere else, I would have still gone for Georgia Tech.
Okay, so you finally were going to the college that you wanted to go to. So that's good.
Yeah, exactly.
So so when you started the application process, the whole writing the SOP, LOR, CV thing, so was there any specific thing where you were surprised or where you felt that you had not taken into account the amount of time you'll have to spend into it, etc.?
I think yes. So as I mentioned earlier, I gave GRE in September. Had I taken it earlier, I would have had more time to apply before the early deadlines of some colleges. Then while writing SOP, I think initially I was too stuck on writing the perfect essay right from the go, which I realized it's not really possible. I wasted, I think, around 2 weeks, 3 weeks in that, trying to figure out what's the perfect start and how to conclude and what's the content and everything. But then later, after talking to some of my friends and my family, I realized that the best approach is to just write whatever I'm thinking. What is my story? Just write it down, and once I have it, then I can obviously change it and get feedback from my friends and see whether they see whatever I'm trying to portray. Because if that doesn't come out, then SOP is not really strong. So yeah, I mean, writing that perfect essay was a big mistake. Should have just started earlier.
Any advice to students who are, who are just starting out, let's say, and I'm thinking of applying for fall 22. So any advice for them? But how to how to approach the whole university selection, to writing the documents, to finally sending the application, the whole process.
So I think students should ask themselves that why do they want to do masters? Because if they can't answer that question, then statement of purpose doesn't come out that strong. Once you know why you want to do masters, then that is exactly what you need to write in your statement of purpose. And once you know that, you write that, then you need to answer the next question as to why should they select you. So that could be based on your experience, your research that you have done, or maybe, I mean, some personal story that pushed you to go for that, and that's why you'll be very interested or very motivated to complete that master's program. So I think it's a very individual thing. A lot of times I've seen that people try to search on Google and then they would try to copy paste parts of the essay, but that doesn't work, because until unless it's individualistic, it portrays exactly who you are and why should they take you, it doesn't work. So be sure that you're genuine in your essays, and show that why should they hire you. Whatever program you're applying for, tailor to that. Don't write a generic essay. Like if you're applying to Georgia Tech, then why Georgia Tech? You should cover that part in your essay. If you're applying to Stanford, then why Stanford, and why not some other college? So those things help. And if you have talked to someone from the university, maybe some professors or some admin staff, you can mention that as well, because that shows that you're really interested and you've done your homework for the school. And in terms, sorry, go on.
No, please continue.
I was saying that in terms of university selection, be open. Don't go only for famous universities. Obviously, famous ones have better employment rates, but be open to selecting even the non-famous ones if they fit your purpose.
I think about the SOP, you made two very relevant points. Firstly, that do not copy paste stuff from the internet. Your application documents they're put through anti-plagiarism software.
Yeah.
So the universities would like run your SOP through anti-plagiarism software, and if there is a match, so then if there is a of course there will be 5-10% match obviously, but if it's like more than that, then you will get a rejection. So
Exactly.
Please do not copy paste from sample SOPs available on the internet. Those are samples, those are not to be copy pasted. It's a very good point. Second is what you told that that yes, your SOP has to be customized to the university that you are applying to. A lot of students tend to have a skeleton kind of like an SOP, and then they just use it to apply to 6-7 universities. So that's not advisable at all. So if you have to change just one paragraph, where you are writing about the university, then do that. But do make sure that you include some university specific, information, in the SOP. So I think that's those very.
And the other thing as well is that sometimes people structure it in a way where you have one paragraph for university, but then it's a bit obvious that you are applying in other universities and you're just replacing that paragraph. So if possible, you can integrate other parts of your essay towards the university as well, like mention professor's name or something great about the university that really integrates well with your background or your courses that you've done before. So I think try to customize as much as possible, I would say.
I mean, and university selection thing, students, I think for purely because there's probably not that much information available to students, but they tend to go by the rankings. So rankings is a good starting point, but the program that you're applying for, that program has to, appeal to you. It has to be in sync with what you want to do, why you are doing the master's program. So if you need further information, I would strongly recommend the students to attend the university events. Nowadays, there are a lot of these universities, they have these webinars, closer to the deadlines. So the university events actually start from June, July-ish, So if you have a shortlisted set of universities, then, bookmark their event page, so and keep an eye out, right? So, but yeah, I mean, don't just, and when you attend these university events, you would actually get to know some things about the university that are probably not there on the website. No, and
No,
you can
definitely.
you will include that. If you include that bit in your SOP as well, then it shows to the university that you have actually gone one step further and done more research on the university, and definitely earns you brownie points if nothing else, right?
Yeah, definitely. At least it shows the university that you have done your homework, you're interested.
Right, you're genuinely interested,
Yeah,
So
yeah,
university, as you say, universities know that every student applies to 5-6 universities.
exactly.
So they are always in a dilemma that, okay, if we give these many admission offers, how many will finally join us, So
Yeah,
it's important to show that you are genuinely interested,
yeah,
especially in whichever university is in the number one in your priority list, that university you should go all out, in terms of proving to the university that you are genuinely interested. So
definitely. Yeah, great.
so Shubham, I think it's been really great to speaking to you. So, any parting advice to our students?
One last thing. Letter of recommendations. Um, Identify your recommenders as early as possible, even before GRE. Talk to them, remind them on what you had done for them and why should they recommend you. And don't try to write your own letter. Even if they ask you to write, don't ask them to write it, because if someone is recommending you, it should be their thoughts. Universities have rejected students before who wrote their own letters. They have softwares that can compare your SOP as well as your letter of recommendations and see whether there's match in the language and the way you write. So yeah, try to get people who know you rather than people who have good or rather high titles. So it's important that they know you very well.
I think extremely insightful, discussion. You can actually come back and work for us, if you want to. I'm sure our students will get a lot of benefit, having you as a guide, So Shubham, all the best. I'm sure you are going to excel in whatever field you go for. So all the best. And I've been to Atlanta, great place. You will enjoy. Do take
Sure.
time out to enjoy as well.
Yeah. Thank you
So,
very much.
so that's all. Thank you so much for taking out the time. On behalf of all Jamboree, I would like to thank you.
Thank you very much, and all the best to all the students.